With over 120 credits to his name, Timothy Murphy is staying busy in the acting world. He joins me now to talk about what he's been up to and what's coming next. Good morning, Timothy.
Good morning, Matt. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. Good to be talking to a fellow Irishman, I must say.
Absolutely. Well, lately you've been working on S.W.A.T. and you just starred alongside Bruce Willis in a film. Tell us about your roles in these projects and what your experience has been like.
Well, I love America and working in America. I suppose Bruce Willis, all of us grew up in his movies and he was great. So it was a thrill to be, acting opposite him in the leading role. And So that's out at the moment, that movie. And then Shamar Moore and myself did a couple of SWAT episodes down in Mexico. So I think I'm coming back in that in a few weeks maybe, or that's what they're talking about. But you never know with these guys what the story's gonna do or what's gonna happen. But it certainly was great. We shot Under Siege and our American Siege in Georgia, in a little town called Fitzgerald in Georgia, and it was an amazing experience. Just being in a little town in South Georgia, in the middle of the deep South, as it's called, and of course then Tepoztlan down in Mexico, another exotic location. They have these little beautiful towns in Mexico.
That's very true. Well, Timothy, is there a favorite role you've had or a favorite project that you've been a part of?
I like all the projects. I mean, I'm an actor. I'm very lucky as an actor, to be able to make a living and survive in this industry, because it's not an easy industry. Very often you just see, the multi-millionaire red carpet kind of situation, but that is not the situation for the majority of actors. So I'm very blessed to be where I am. As far as favorite roles, they're all unique in a lot of ways. I mean, I've done some great characters in movies that mightn't even be heard of, so I just go by the characters. But the ones you guys would know of, obviously, would be Galen in the Sons of Anarchy. That Russian character was in True Detective. Grace and Frankie, that criminal that made out with Jane Fonda and Grace and Frankie, which is like, she's an icon. That was very funny doing that. Westworld, of course, just jumping out of helicopters, taking care of business and stuff. And Damnation, Tony Toss did Damnation. I love doing that. I don't want to be and Criminal Minds, of course, is a big one. And then in the movie side, I love westerns. To be doing westerns here, I just did a western called The Redeemer, which I think is going to be very good, with Miles Classy. And I love doing westerns. So to be working with Ed Harris, who was one of my heroes as an actor when I was growing up, I love his work. So Ed asked me to do Appaloosa in New Mexico. And I also did National Treasure 2 with him before that. So hopefully we get a chance to work together again,
Yeah, and what drew you into becoming an actor?
What drew me into becoming an actor? Well, I had a very bad stutter, actually, when I was a kid. I could hardly talk until I was about 16. I went to college and I studied, modern history. I love history, but I studied business as well, and I wasn't really into that. And then I, headed to America and worked in construction and things. And but I did a commercial in Florida at one stage, and they were looking for a guy that looked like James Dean, and I did look like James Dean in my 20s. And a Molson beer commercial. It was shot in the Art Deco, region of Miami, and there was no air conditioning inside in these hotels where we were shooting. So I had a wife beater on, and the sweat would be pumping off you after like 10 minutes. Florida in the summer, they start powdering me down. And I mean, I'm working with a bunch of roofers in Florida like a week beforehand, a bunch of Irish roofers, and now I'm being pampered like this. I said, well, if this is acting, I'm getting into this. And so then I studied acting. I went back to Ireland and studied acting in the place called the Focus Theatre in Dublin, run by Deirdre O'Connell. And Gabriel Byrne would have gone through there, and Liam Neeson. So I suppose, to make a long story short, I trained there for 2 years, and that's how I got into acting. Yeah, it wasn't a plan, or I didn't have a dream when I was a kid that I wanted to be an actor, any of those stories. I went from roofing to acting basically, and bouncing in Dublin in the clubs while I studied acting.
There you go. Well, that's just how it goes sometimes. Well, what projects are coming up next for you as we get through 2022?
The definite things that I've two movies coming out. One is called Apophenia, which I think is going to be a very good movie actually, and the other one is The Redeemer. I think it's going to be a very good Western. So they're the two things one people should look out for, as well as that. I may be on S.W.A.T later. We'll see. So that's the story there.
Well, speaking of the pandemic, you were born in Ireland. Now you're in Los Angeles. How has the pandemic impacted your life and career these past 2 years?
Financially, not great, obviously. Financially, quite bad, like everybody else, I think. I mean, if you couldn't work from home, you were in a bit of trouble. So, and as an actor, you can't really work from home, and a lot of the sets were closed down, definitely for a year. And I was lucky to get sporadic work, and I seem to be getting little bits and pieces throughout the pandemic, actually, which kept me going. And then I was owed money from before, but you live in savings, and you just hope and pray that you can feed your family. And I have a family, 2 kids, and my wife and myself. And it's like anyone else. We were all in pain. Any different than anyone else. We all went through a hard time the last number of years with uncertainty and everything. But as an actor, you're used to uncertainty. So mentally, it wasn't as bad as some people. And I've heard horrific stories. As far as getting home to my family, because I come from a very close Irish family. There's 6 of us. We're like Irish twins. We're all a year apart. And my father, he died a couple of years ago, and that was the last time I was home. And it was seldom we all get together, but it was an amazing celebration of his life. And he had a huge funeral in Tralee. I think there was our little town in the west coast of Ireland. He like 300 people or something. So he was well loved, but I really missed him in Ireland. I love my mother; she's in a nursing home, and my brothers and sisters were very close. So. But we're spread out. I have a sister, Elaine, in Australia. Eddie's in Portugal. The others are in Ireland. So hopefully this year we'll all get together, So.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. My last question for you, is there a dream role you have?
A dream role? I love the stories of, I did a little short movie a number of years ago about a farmer in Iowa. And he was the last in his generation, in his family, the Funks. He'll be the last on that land after over 100 years, that land being in the family, and what that meant to him and all that. And I thought it came out very good. It's called Loons. You can look it up in Vimeo or whatever. But, a man in the wilderness, like Jeremiah Johnson, that Western that Robert Redford did a number of years ago, something like The Revenant or The Old Man in the Sea, all those. A man alone in the wilderness, or a man trying to take care of his family in the wilderness, or westerns, or period pieces. I love all that kind of stuff. So I couldn't say one thing, but I've been trying to develop this farming movie about this farmer, what it means to be attached to the land, and maybe you're not going to be attached to the land anymore, or you're all those kind of questions. I think a lot of people during COVID have gone actually back to their small towns, back to the land, back to even vegetable gardening, or even growing trees here and stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Timothy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Not a matter. It was such a pleasure. I hope I didn't talk too much. But I'm Irish and we do talk, so yeah.
Well, we're very glad to have you on, and this whole interview will be on our website. That is ciproud.com.